The best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Oh, yes, it does. And great to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of the show. We got plenty to talk about over the next 60 minutes. So glad to have you with us, including our new audience watching on My TV6 in St. Louis. Hello, St. Louis. We see you. So thrilled to have you as part of the Sports Wrap family of stations. A lot to get to. So now we're in Kansas City and St. Louis. We own Missouri. I love it. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes on this show. Plenty of football talk. We will get to the baseball that we didn't talk about from the weekend and the big week ahead, with so much still to be decided in the final week of the baseball season. Only a few games last night, so we didn't miss much on that front. Also, Ryder Cup players being paid. Has the U.S. already lost the Ryder Cup before it started? I want to get into that some as well. Odds and ends with a big coaching resignation to talk about there. But we start things out in the NFL, and Sam Yarnell is here to hang out with us as he is just about each and every day. So the Ravens dropped to 1-2 on Monday night with a loss. I did a Sports Wrap short on this. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go and do it. We have Sports Wrap shorts there available across all platforms. In fact, you can find them on Instagram. You can find them on TikTok, Sports Wrap shorts. And we did a quick one last night after the Ravens fell to 1-2. Hold on. Lamar Jackson was just sacked again. So that's an 8th sack. He was sacked 7 times last night. You never see Lamar Jackson sacked 7 times. The Ravens beaten really at the point of contact on both sides of the ball. And Sam, this is a telling loss. This wasn't, choking one away late. And I know the Derrick Henry fumble will gain so much of the conversation, as it should, for his 3rd fumble in as many games, and the second one this season that you could argue cost his team a potential victory. But a lot to pull away, a lot of threads to pull at from this game, Sam.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, you said it. We do now own the state of Missouri, whether you're sitting in St. Louis eating your Emo's Pizza or in Kansas City eating your Gates Barbecue. You now have to listen to my sports nonsense 5 days a week at the least. Yeah, Jason, so here's the thing. There's so much talk about this Derrick Henry fumble and 1 fumble per game. Go back and watch all 3 of his fumbles, because there is a difference in the NFL when you fumble the football between actually carrying the ball precariously, right, and causing the fumble yourself, or having an all-pro player make an all-pro play, which is what has happened twice to Derrick Henry of these 3 fumbles that he's had this season. So I am not going to hold this against one of the greatest running backs of all time, that a couple of all-pros have come up and made game-saving plays, game-winning plays, not game-saving plays, when they matter, against a Hall of Fame running back in Derrick Henry, who's been great this year.
Yes.
On the sacks thing about Lamar Jackson. Yeah, yes, the Ravens' offensive line did not look great yesterday. They didn't grade out particularly well, but they didn't grade out particularly poorly. I will say Lamar Jackson made some very questionable decisions last night, and there was great coverage by the Lions downfield. Credit that Kelvin Shepherd defense. A couple of those sacks in and of themselves were coverage sacks. Now, the problem in this game, and the problem this year for the Baltimore Ravens, is something that we have never had to talk about as a problem for this team before, and it's their defense. The Baltimore Ravens defense, is a semblance of what they used to be. Mm-hmm. I can't even think of the words to describe how much of a cliff it seems like this team has fallen off defensively. I mean, Roquan Smith and Marlon Humphrey absolutely showing their age. I said this after their week 1 loss to Buffalo. These are 2 guys who everyone spent all offseason trying to tell me they hadn't reached UNC status, when it was very clear the last 4 weeks of last season that they had. So the Ravens defense, to me, has become a concern that I think could potentially define their season, Jason.
I would agree. I think they're putting that offense in a position where they have to outscore teams every week. But I'll also say this. I don't know how many offenses they're going to run into that are as dynamic potentially. You know, we saw what Josh Allen did in week 1, especially late in that game. And, you know, Detroit with 2 90-plus yard drives in this game, one of them 10.5 minutes long, which was amazing unto itself. I don't know how many of those types of offenses they're going to run into. I think it becomes more of an issue for them when we get to the postseason than it is when we get, you know, as we go through the regular season. I still think Baltimore's a playoff team. I don't think any of us in our even if they lost to the Chiefs next week, I'd still tell you that I think Baltimore. I would still think I tell you that Baltimore, because there's enough teams on their schedule that they're going to be able to get enough wins against that they're going to make the playoffs. I still wouldn't be shocked if both Baltimore and the Chiefs, regardless of the outcome next week, if both of those teams found a way into the postseason. It would not shock me. But that remains to be seen. Just a couple of things here. You know, as much as we talk about, you know, the different quarterbacks in this league and what they do, we still don't give enough love to Jared Goff, who still just makes play. It's not flashy. He's not running around and, running all these different sorts of plays. It's very simple in some regards. But I still want to give my flowers to Jared Goff for just a second. Montgomery with the big run in this game that obviously led to a touchdown. I want to talk about that a little bit. Make sure to give some credit there. But can I just say this? And this is I'm aiming this at a specific person, and I don't mind calling this person out. Jason LaConfort, who just loves to tell us all that Lamar Jackson is the greatest quarterback in the league and that it's not even close. All you got to do is look at his ex and you'll find that out. If Lamar Jackson was so great, if Lamar Jackson was the greatest quarterback of this generation like you purport him to be, Jason LaConfort, if that was the case, he would be able to put his team on his back and carry them for more than 3 wins in 8 playoff games. Stop with this whole thing about the greatness of Lamar Jackson, because you can't have one conversation without having the other. And I'm sick and tired of the hyperbole that comes out of some of these people that supposedly know ball, but then can't tell you why somebody is 3-5 in the postseason. Well, it's their team's fault. Oh, it's Mark Andrews not catching a football. No, you can't have it both ways. Because great quarterbacks sometimes have to take teams, put them on their backs, and carry them to victory. Okay, I'm done.
There's nuance to it, as there's nuance with everything in sports.
Yes, there is. We got to go. We're coming back, though. We got more NFL. Weekend leftovers, week 3 style. Yummy. Welcome back to the show. We've still got more NFL to do. Weekend leftovers, because yummy. I will be feasting on leftovers all week, by the way, because I am living the bachelor life the entire week, which means no cooking in the Page estate. Because if my husband ain't doing it, I ain't doing it. I'll just live off of fast food and Domino's leftovers this week, Sam Yarnell. You know what that's like. Right? You can live off fast food, right?
I used to, not anymore. I'm
Really?
fortunate enough that I don't anymore, but I certainly did at one point in my life, for sure.
It's good. Break that thing while you're young, because when you get older, it doesn't work as well. You have to trust me on that. Weekend leftovers, Sam, from the NFL, and there are plenty to dig into. The Packers loss, which we avoided yesterday on the show because I wanted to give it its proper time to let it breathe a little bit, to sort of marinate in Jordan Love's latest failing on a team that should be 3-0 but isn't, because, as I keep saying, the X factor in all of this is going to be Jordan Love. The X factor in how far this team goes. And I hate to put it on one guy's shoulders, but look, this team will have its regular season success. It'll either win the division or be a playoff team. We all know that. But everything that the Packers are going to be graded on, Sam Yarnell, at the end of the season is how deep they go into the postseason, if not being a Super Bowl team, which a lot of people thought they were of that caliber. But as we continue to see time and time again, in the key moments, when it matters most, Jordan Love is going to let you down. And it happened again against the Cleveland Browns, who, by the way, their defense is like first place caliber. That team's defense is good enough that they're going to be in games all season long. Kind of, I hate to say it, kind of like the Chiefs. I know I'm comparing the Browns and the Chiefs. Blasphemy. But I think, that Browns defense is going to keep them in a lot of football games this year. I know what happened against the Ravens. There were some collapses late in that game. That defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, as is the Packers defense, because we already know what it is. That being said, Sam, what did you make of Jordan Love's latest failing in a big moment, the interception late on Sunday?
Well, I'll tell you this. I think we need to give a little more credit to the Browns in this game. The Browns have the best defense in football. It is not close. This year, the Cleveland Browns have the best defense in football through the first 3 weeks of the season. They have the best defensive player in football, hands down. If you haven't seen what Myles Garrett has done so far this year, I'd recommend you go look, because, man, I thought Nick Bosa was doing really well this season until he tore his ACL. Then I looked at what Myles Garrett's done on a defense for Cleveland that has been very, very, very good to start the season. So, yeah. And also, old man Joe, right, and this Cleveland Browns offense, the defense really put them in position to be the offense there at the end. But in that fourth quarter, scoring all 13 of their points after they hadn't been able to essentially do anything against that Packers offense that Packers defense all day. I don't know. I was impressed with the Browns in this spot. I think the Browns might be a little bit better than all of us, including me, made them out to be. They're going to be one of those teams that rides this defense to 6 wins maybe.
Does that mean does that mean you keep Joe Flacco at quarterback, or eventually you turn it over to Dylan Gabriel?
No. You can't do that. That's you can't.
Well, then I ask the same question about the Browns. Not that I want to make this a Browns related segment, because there's more I want to get to. But then I ask the same question about the Browns that I ask about the Giants. What the hell are you waiting for? There's never going to be a good. I don't want to hear, because next game up is the Chargers, or next game up is this tough defense. There's never going to be a good time. There's never going to be a right time. If you've already concluded that you're not going to win with said quarterback who is currently starting, then what is stopping you from putting in a quarterback that maybe you win with, maybe you don't, but it's going to be at least a step in the direction towards your future? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it's more justifiable for the Browns to do it because their quarterbacks are more project oriented, right? This is a different conversation, but with the Giants, Jackson Dart may be the most talented thrower in that room right now. He is to the Packers.
Not maybe.
Right. So maybe we'll get to that on Thursday. Anyway, to the Packers. Yes, Jordan Love looked bad. I said after the primetime game they played, where everyone pretended he looked good at the end, I said he should be on fraud watch. I still think he should. The Green Bay Packer, and I said this to someone else, the Green Bay Packer quarterback machine broke when it spit this one out. It's almost all right in terms of the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre build and what you need to be. But then there's just a couple little places where it didn't completely finish developing or something. So yeah, the Green Bay Packer quarterback machine broke when it spit out Jordan Love, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now with the Packers. I'm worried about them. I don't think they can win the NFC.
In the final minute and a half of the segment, was it the Bears offense or the Cowboys defense, or a little bit of both on Sunday?
I
think it was. I think I got to be honest. and I'm rooting for Caleb Williams to succeed. This is about the Cowboys defense. They gave up a zillion to the Giants, and we saw what that Giants offense looked like when it played against a real defense in the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk about a little bit of a shock to your system if you're the Giants. To me, this is about the Cowboys defense more than it is, oh, Caleb Williams now has it all figured out, and Ben Johnson and Kumbaya, and everything's great in Chicago with the Bears. Stop. This is all about how bad this Cowboys defense is.
But if you'll remember my preseason take on Caleb
we're going to
Williams,
stop the run.
This was my main takeaway from this game, is that I've never been more right ever in my life. We don't know what Caleb Williams is, and that's exactly what I said would happen. Caleb Williams was the most volatile quarterback coming into this season, and we've already been on both ends of the spectrum. We were on, oh my gosh, he's a total bust after week 1, and now we're on, oh my gosh, this guy's everything he was cracked up to be after week 3. I was so right.
You know, I have a very cherished loved one in my life. It says, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Right.
No, see, I'd rather be happy.
No.
I'm not going to sit here and gloat. I'm not going to do the Sam Yarnell. When I was younger, though, when I was a younger man, I used to love telling people how right I was. Then somebody pulled me aside and said, nobody likes the smartest guy in the room. We got more leftovers next. Coming up in 10 minutes, some baseball. Get you set up for the final week with still so much to be decided around the big leagues. Shocker, the Mets don't control their own fate anymore. What's that number now, Sam? I'm sure you know. You don't have it off the top of your head. I'm shocked. It's all right. We'll get to it coming up in about 10 minutes on the show. If you have not done so yet, make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, all of our YouTube channel content as well. Lots of great content there for you to absorb. The podcast available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Sam, weekend leftovers part duh. The 3-0 teams, and there are a few to obviously discuss. And rather than go through, any direct games, we've got the Bills at 3-0, the Colts at 3-0, the Chargers at 3-0, the Eagles at 3-0, the Buccaneers at 3-0, the 49ers at 3-0. The 3-0 team that has impressed you the most, and why, Sam? What?
You're going to be mad. You're going to be upset.
It would take a lot to make me mad this morning, trust me.
It's the San Francisco Minor 49ers, man. Me and these San Francisco 49ers. I can't get enough of them. The Mac Jones experience, inject it directly into my veins. Christian McCaffrey, people aren't even talking enough about, hey, Christian McCaffrey actually looks healthy after all of whatever last season was. They don't have George Kittle, and it's like nothing even happened, right? And I'm going to be honest, even after the Nick Bosa injury, I still think that they're going to win a bunch of games. I love this team. I've been so impressed with the San Francisco 49ers. They're a team to me that just, like the Bills in the AFC, the chips just fell right in the right spots for them in terms of the things that they can't control coming into the season, which makes dealing with the adversities of an 18-week-long NFL season just that much easier, right? It's going to make replacing Nick Bosa that much easier. It made replacing Brock Purdy that much easier. It made replacing George Kittle that much easier. When you get set up in a very in a promising position, right? It pays dividends no matter what happens throughout the season. I've been beyond impressed with the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm impressed with the Niners. I don't know why you would make me mad to say that. I'm actually really impressed with what they've done. Of all the 3-0s, the fact that they've done it with, paper mache and a little bit of artwork and, gluing this together and voila, you're 3-0. I'll tell you the one thing. Brock Purdy is going to be obviously the starting quarterback of this team. I'm going to tell you right now, because the one I get that, you can put anybody in a Kyle Shanahan system and feel like you can win games, but Mac Jones hasn't so much blown my doors off that I think Mac Jones. I'll tell you what this has done for Mac Jones. It's put him in a position to get a contract and get another opportunity as a starter somewhere else in the league. That's what it's done. The same way Sam Darnold with Kevin O'Connell did last year, and you've sort of seen already how that's paying dividends in Seattle with the Seahawks team that has a couple of wins early on in the season. I still have to go with Indianapolis, though. I still got to go with the Colts. And this is, by the way, this is not a knock on Buffalo when we say this. This is not a knock on the Chargers. Those are 3-0 teams that have looked really good doing it. I'm talking about teams that we weren't expecting to be 3-0. The Indiana Jones Indianapolis Colts. That, to me, has been easily one of the stories of this season. Daniel Jones, discarded by a Giants team that may not win a football game this year. That Daniel Jones, now in Indianapolis, where he had to compete for the starting job against Anthony Richardson, going out there and doing what he's done. And that is a complete football team. And it just goes to show you what putting in that right, stable, steady quarterback. And Sam, you thought they were going to lose last week against the Titans, so I got to call you out a little bit on that. You thought they were on fraud watch. Let's just say that. Now I wonder, has what you've seen after week 3 changed your mind?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll tell you, like, the main reason why, and you might think this is stupid if you're watching the show, but that game was outside. Like, as jovial as that sounds, that game being outside and them doing that to the Tennessee Titans, who, like, I think have a half-decent defense. I put real American money on the Tennessee Titans in that game, not just my Page versus the Prince picks. Wow, that was stupid. It's a great call. I've been beyond impressed with this team as well. The offense is, I think, performing not beyond its means. I don't want to say that. It's performing up to its potential. For the first time, we've seen it get within 20% of its potential, right? This is an offense that we haven't seen perform at like during the Anthony Richardson days, like 60%, 70% efficiency. This is an offense that is firing on all cylinders with Daniel Jones. It feels like Shane Steichen is finally showing you why he was so successful in Philadelphia, what he can do to an offense to make it so quarterback friendly. It's a great point on the Colts, and I think they're a team that we're actually going to have to start worrying about because of how easy their division is.
They're the heart attack kids, though. Give me the Buccaneers, too. I mean, they've won 3 games by a combined 6 points. Every single game goes down to the wire with this team, and the Flying Baker Mayfields just continue to find ways to win football games, sometimes in the most strange of ways. And I don't know how far they take this thing. They're in a division, obviously, that lends itself to them being able to obviously kind of run away with that division. We saw what Atlanta is. We know how bad New Orleans is. By the way, I always say teams don't know they suck early on in the season. New Orleans knows they suck now. They know that it's going to be a long season down there. And I don't know how, and I got to be honest, not to go too deep into this because we don't have a lot of time. I feel for Saints fans because that is a great fan base, and they are going to be subject to a lot of bad football for the next 14 games. Our buddy Stan Verrett, who we had on the show from formerly of ESPN, who's working their game day broadcast down there. Man, oh man, I feel for them. Because it's going to be a long, rough season. Hopefully the reward on the other side of it is that you get the number 1 pick and you get a quarterback that sort of turns around the fortunes of that organization. It is going to be a long year in New Orleans, Sam.
Listen, the Buccaneers are my Super Bowl pick. They've looked great so far, and they play 7 teams down the stretch that are currently 0-3 or 1-2.
Hello to our friends watching on WVUE in New Orleans. We love you guys down there. We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Turn into baseball next. All right, on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap, and great to have you with us all across America and Canada. Because in Canada, you got a playoff team in baseball. We're going to talk some baseball right now. It's actually a really cool documentary coming out on what happened to the Montreal Expos, like how that whole thing fell apart. I'm looking forward to that. Before I get too far away from the topic at hand, let's talk some baseball and get into the storylines here in this final week of the season, Sam Yarnell, and there are plenty of them to sort of dig into. Who knew? Who knew we would have a couple of divisional races here in the final week that are still very much at stake? Toronto and the Yankees. The Yankees only 2 back there, obviously still very much in the thick of things. And if you look at the next 3 days, with Toronto playing against the Red Sox, I believe, and the Yankees taking on the White Sox, there is an opportunity there for the Yankees to obviously make up some ground in the AL East. The one we have not spent nearly enough time on is the epic collapse in the AL Central by the Detroit Tigers. You might be celebrating the Lions today, but you are lamenting the Detroit Tigers right now for the collapse that has taken place there. With the Cleveland Guardians, who essentially have no right winning this division, they traded away guys. They were sellers at the deadline, and here are the Guardians, after getting rid of everybody, Sam, with an opportunity to win the AL Central.
Traded away, guys. Half their team got suspended by Major League Baseball because they were gambling on the games. I mean, what is going on here?
I know.
This is crazy. I was legitimately trying to count the number of wins that the Tigers have in the month of September. I think it's 3. They've won 3 games in the 4. They've won 5. They've won
Can you figure it out?
5 games all month.
All right.
As ridiculous as that is, as ridiculous as it is, as me miscounting 3 times.
You sounded like the count. I thought I was watching Sesame Street. One win.
This has been cinema. Absolute cinema. I mean, you're talking about a team in the Guardians that's 9-1 over their last 10, and a team in Detroit that's 1-9 over their last 10. It has been so fun to watch, and of course, because it's baseball, because it's Cleveland, and because it's the Guardians, Jose Ramirez getting nowhere near the credit that this man deserves. This is a guy who deserves. Quite frankly, there's an argument that he deserves the MVP award every single year because he is just that good. And it's mind-boggling what he's been doing over the course of this month, Jason. I am falling in love with this Cleveland Guardians team. And you know, Jose Ramirez is obviously at the center of that. Another 30-30 season, completely under the radar, right? He's stolen 40 bases this year. Who saw that coming? An OPS around 900. Not enough good things you can say about the best third baseman in the American League.
And Seattle now up 3 on Houston going into these final, 6 games of the season here after doing a number on the Astros in Houston, Sam. Why so down? What's the matter? What?
I'm looking at Jose Ramirez's career stats right now. This is crazy. So this is
listening to me.
This is his 5th straight season. Of 20 homers and 20 steals at least as a bare minimum, right? This is his 2nd season of 30 homers, 40 stolen bases. Last year he had 39 and 41. I think he might have depending on how hot he gets, 40-40 is not out of the question for Jose Ramirez.
By the way, it's crazy that he has 40 stolen bases because when I look at Jose Ramirez, I don't look at a guy and I say, yeah, he's a speed burner.
Right.
He's a burner. I've never looked at him and thought, he's flying around the bases. And then you've got the wild card in the American League, which is every bit as wild as you could possibly imagine with all the different scenarios out there. You've basically got 5 teams, it feels like, for 3 available playoff spots. Because you've got Houston right now with 72 losses, Cleveland with 72 losses. They're tied for the final wild card spot, and I guess Cleveland must own the tiebreaker there because they're listed as 3rd in the wild card standings. But you still have Houston with a shot to win that division, so they have that way to get in. And then you've got Cleveland still with a shot to win their division. So there are going to be a lot of things that happen here over the final few days. And Boston, depending on what Toronto does to them, could still wind up outside as far as the wild card is considered. The only team that seems like they're safe to at least make the postseason in one form or another is the Yankees, which takes us over to the National League, Sam, where things aren't nearly as muddled, except if you're the Mets, because you have managed to squander. The Mets were basically a playoff team from like April 7th until this weekend, where now they are tied with the Cincinnati Reds, but the Reds own the tiebreaker there, Sam. And it's going to be a fun final week for baseball for fans in Cincinnati, with a team having a shot to make the playoffs that I don't think anybody thought had a chance to make the playoffs.
Nobody? Well, nobody thought they had a chance?
Except the smartest guy in the room. That's your new nickname.
No, I mean, so again, I'll say it. I've said it before on the show. I'll say it again. Oil and water, the New York Mets organization, and the month of September. They just don't go well together. They never have. They never will. It's a team that even won their World Series runs, they were not good in September.
Don't leave out Arizona, by the way, Sam. They're one out. They're one behind Cincinnati and the Mets, another team that was left for dead.
Jason,
that sold off everything.
I have been known in the last 24 hours to not leave San Francisco and St. Louis out of this conversation. Anything is possible. It's like the meme, right? Anything is possible in the National League playoff picture this year.
Addressing the Ryder Cup paying players next. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes with some thoughts on Bruce Pearl. Surprising some folks, I think, announcing his retirement. Why he's retiring, though, might be far more interesting. And why the Jimmy Kimmel story at ABC could matter in a sports context. I will explain that coming up as well. You thought you were getting away from the Jimmy Kimmel story by turning on this show? We'll get to that coming up as well, Sam Yarnell. Look, the U.S. is paying Ryder Cup players, and now there's this talk that they're gonna donate the money. Let me tell you why they're donating the money, because they're getting crushed for the fact that they're even asking to get paid. When you've got the European team out there basically saying, we're doing it for love of the game, tradition, national pride, or European pride. And then you've got the Patrick Cantlays of the world who sort of pushed the needle on this topic of Ryder Cup players not getting paid. And kudos to Laura Davies, by the way, who is a legend in the sport of golf, for coming out and saying what needed to be said. And that was the fact that this shouldn't even be a topic of conversation. We should not be talking about the fact that Ryder Cup players have to be paid. Golfers make an immense amount of money, especially when you're a golfer playing in the Ryder Cup, because it means you've had enough success that you've made a substantial amount of money, not just in your career, but in that particular time period in which we go about figuring out who's going to be on the team. To me, it just all adds up to the fact that all the pressure is on the United States in this Ryder Cup, Sam. They have got to do something to sort of turn the tide as it relates to what Europe has been able to do here. And along those lines, by the way, at Bethpage Black at the Ryder Cup this week, the U.S. is your favorite at minus 155 to win the Ryder Cup to Europe, who is plus 170, and a tie has been priced in at plus 1,000 at 10-1, Sam.
Yeah, so I bet Europe to lift the trophy.
Really?
Yeah, obviously I took a tie out of it.
Commie!
If that's what you want to call me, sure. But if the book is going to price it like an American book is,
we're deporting you.
If you think that is the number that reflects the difference in skill between these two teams of golf, learn ball, I guess.
We're deporting you.
Learn dimple, I guess, is the only thing I could say. So yeah, I mean, the European team, top to bottom, is 1 through 12, right? The better team. Like, are you going to tell me that team is not better? I get it. USA's got the best player in the world, Scotty Scheffler. No debating that. No contest. I've said it before many times on this show. One of the greatest golfers of all time already. They've got him. Europe's got everybody else. Give me Europe. I'll take Europe if I'm a betting man, which I am. So I did, and I took it. And listen, the pay for play thing, I think Luke Donald, as controversial as his comments were, Luke Donald put it best. As somebody who's very, 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 very familiar with that part of the country, specifically Farmingdale, New York, yeah, you're right, Luke Donald. Those New Yorkers are going to get pretty upset when they spent $1,600 for the family to come out and enjoy a Saturday for 4 tickets for the family. And, the U.S. loses the match 9-5 or whatever it is. I have to refresh my memory on the Ryder Cup scoring system. Regardless, the U.S. gets blown out like they did last time in Italy. Is the principle there. You're going to have a lot of angry New Yorkers, right? So the catalyst to this entire story had the right idea. Do I think it'll actually happen that way? It's not a guarantee, but it's not great that they're paying them.
Did you see what Brandel Chambly said about Bryson DeChambeau yesterday? If folks haven't seen it, Brandel Chambly absolutely excoriated over on Golf Channel Bryson DeChambeau, because Bryson DeChambeau came out and in his presser with the media talked about, he was talking about his YouTube channel and all the people that watch and what what it does for charity and all this. Well, Brandel Chambly, who has no love, for anybody that's on Live, of course. Brandel Chambly came out and basically said, well, we all know the viewing numbers for Bryson DeChambeau, those are bots. He said those are bots. A lot of the people watching Bryson DeChambeau over on his YouTube channel, those are bots, which was like, wow, shots fired. And talking about the fact that, Bryson DeChambeau, in the midst of, this huge moment for the U.S. and U.S. golf, felt the need to pump up and pimp out his YouTube channel. Look, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have an issue with it. And he said, maybe Bryson DeChambeau is not going to be the guy you want to be paired up with. That team morale around somebody like that isn't going to be great. How about we talk about Patrick Cantlay? If we're going to talk about that, let's talk about having to play with a guy that is the human rain delay in Patrick Cantlay, who you're literally going to have to sit there and watch him tippy-toe around every shot that he takes. If you want to talk about somebody I wouldn't want to play with in this Ryder Cup, it's Patrick Cantlay that I wouldn't want to play with. Not one of the world's best golfers in Bryson DeChambeau, Sam.
Tell us how you really feel about Patrick Cantlay. I mean, listen, Chambly's in a very
unless you're Jimmy
spot.
Roberts and you want to hop into my DMs and hop into my Twitter and go, oh no, you don't know Patrick Cantlay. Get off my timeline.
Anyway, Chambly's in like a very unique spot because, when you're on cable and you don't have to rely on the internet viewership, you can take that shot at the bot viewership, right? The general contest for Bryson DeChambeau can't, because they rely on that same viewership or lack thereof.
And by the way, I love Golf Channel. Damon Hack's a friend. Talk to him quite a bit. There might be more people watching Bryson DeChambeau on YouTube than watching Brandel Chambly on Golf Channel. We're coming back. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. On Wednesday's show, we have a Ryder Cup preview. Never know who else may join us. A couple of reminders before we go. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get the audio version of this show Monday through Friday. You can also watch the show over on Spotify and our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. All commercial free, Monday through Friday. If you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go and check it out and get this show in crystal clear audio Monday through Friday. You can go and check that out. So make sure to do that. In addition, on our YouTube channel, you got Sports Wrap Shorts. If you haven't checked those out yet, SportsWrap Shorts, a great way to stay in touch with the show. Clips from the show, sometimes clips not from the show. The perfect example last night with what took place over on Monday Night Football. We had an instant reaction after that game ended. SportsWrap Shorts always there for you as well as news breaks. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Tuesday, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, and the end for Bruce Pearl. Not sure how many people saw this coming. I wasn't completely shocked, and I'll explain why in a second. He steps down after 11 seasons as the head coach at Auburn. He is going to retire prior to this season with his son, Stephen Pearl, expected to take over the program. He's been the associate head coach over there at Auburn. Now, the reason for his retirement is a bit more interesting. There has been conversation with Tommy Tuberville getting set to run for governor of Alabama. There's been conversation about Bruce Pearl potentially running for the soon-to-be vacant Senate seat for Tommy Tuberville in Alabama. Something worth watching. I have to say, though, and I'm not going to get political here, so I can already hear my distributor, don't talk politics. I don't understand. I mean, look, is NIL that bad? Is coaching college basketball and mentoring these has it become so bad in college sports? You saw Nick Saban retire with the rise of NIL, and it was certainly one of the reasons why he decided to step away from the game. And now you see Bruce Pearl stepping away from the game. You see Dabo Swinney and the trouble he's having. You see a lot of good coaches, and say what you want about Bruce Pearl. The guy is a good basketball coach. And you see these guys that have decided to step away from the game and go pursue other opportunities simply because of the direction that college athletics is going. And Bruce Pearl looks like is going to be the latest example of that to potentially take over or make a run of the Senate seat currently held by Tommy Tuberville. Very much worth watching. We'll see how it all pans out. All the best to Bruce Pearl and whatever he decides to do next. Odds and ends. Why is Jimmy Kimmel making it into the show today? Jimmy Kimmel, I mean, he is a sports fan. But why is the Jimmy Kimmel story making it into the show? You may have heard yesterday Jimmy Kimmel is returning to late night on Tuesday night. By the time you've seen this show, who knows? He may have already had his show over on ABC. But interesting to note, who is not going to carry the Jimmy Kimmel show. Now, why is this a sports story? I'm going to tell you why. If you are watching a Sinclair station, you probably won't see Jimmy Kimmel on Tuesday night. That's because as of the time we put together this show, Sinclair has said they're still not going to air Jimmy Kimmel because of what he said on his show last Monday following the tragic and horrific death of Charlie Kirk. So Sinclair was one of the stations along with Nexstar that said we're not going to air the shows on our ABC affiliates, blah, blah, blah. All right, we get all that. But Sinclair is saying we're still not going to air the show even though ABC has lifted the suspension, the indefinite suspension on Kimmel. Here's why this becomes interesting from a sports standpoint. ABC has a card to play with Sinclair, and it's really the nuclear option. And that is to say, you don't want to air Kimmel on your Sinclair stations? Okay. You're not getting the college football games. Oh, bleep. You can bleep it out. Because that's the sound of Sinclair stations caving. Because I can guarantee you right now, if ABC, Disney, ESPN, that whole conglomerate says, we're not giving you the ABC college football games, many which will include SEC teams, we're not giving you those games on those affiliates of Sinclair in the South where college football is a religion. We're not going to give you those games if you continue to boycott airing the Jimmy Kimmel Live late night show. And that's where the rubber could wind up meeting the road in this story, and why you may ultimately see those Sinclair affiliates succumb to the whims or the wishes of ABC. One last thing before we go. I don't know how many people saw this coming. Sandy Brondello is out as head coach of the New York Liberty. That news breaking just as we were finishing putting the show together. Less than a year after winning a WNBA title, the first in the history of the New York Liberty. And after we saw Breanna Stewart basically, scoff and make faces at even the question of whether or not Sandy Brondello would be the head coach of the Liberty next year, Sandy Brondello out as head coach of the New York Liberty, proving the WNBA is as cutthroat a league as anybody. We've seen coaches get let go after a lot of success in a lot of different spots. We got to go. Thanks to Sam Yarnell. Thanks to all of you for watching. I'm Jason Page. We'll see you back here on Wednesday for an all-new Sports Wrap.